Hi, today we'll go over Python conditional statements and comparisons, as well as handling errors. In this video, we'll be working in Google Colab. If you haven't installed it yet, check out my previous video on how to do it. The link is in the description to this video. Also, make sure to watch my previous video about Python variables and data types. And of course, do subscribe to my channel to never miss a single tutorial. So let's get started. First of all, comparison. Comparisons is the nature of football, I would say. How do we even know if one team beat the other one? Well, by comparing the number of goals both teams scored. So let's try and implement this logic in Python. As you may probably remember from the previous video, we assign a value to a variable using an equal sign. If we use a double equal sign, it would become a comparison operator. Now let's do this. So let's assign number of goals to variables. Team 1, 2 goals, and team 2, 3 goals. And let's compare them. In order to compare them, we would need to place double equal sign between these two variables or between two values we would like to compare. Let's execute this. So it's false. Why it's false? Because it is comparing 2 and 3. So is 2 equals to 3? Well, no. So it returns false, which is logical. Now let's assign team 3 and team 4 with number of goals, which is 3 in both of the teams, and let's compare them once again. And now it returns true because 3 equals to 3. Comparison operator may give us, as you may probably noticed, two types of output, true or false. True means the comparison condition is true or satisfied or it was met. False means, on the other hand, the comparison is not met or is not satisfied. An expression that gives us either true or false, called a Boolean expression. Now let's try other comparison operators. Let's assign once again number of goals to variables. Team 1, 2 goals, and team 2, 3 goals. Now let's compare them using less or equal operator. Let's execute this. And now it is true. Why it is true? Because it checks if 2 is less or equal to 3. It is not equal, but it is less. Therefore, one of these two conditions are met, and it means it is true. Now let's proceed with another operator, which is greater or equal. So we will assign 3 goals to both of the teams and check if team 3 or 3 goals is greater or equal to the number of goals team 4 scored, which is 3 as well. And it is true as well. Why? Because 3 is not greater than 3, but it is equal. So one of these two conditions was met. Therefore, the expression, the comparison is true. We may compare strings as well, not only the variables or numbers. And let's try to compare. It returns false. Why? Because Messi, which is written with a capital M, is not equal to Messi, which is written all lowercase. Now, how can we check if something doesn't equal to something? In some situation, we want to check if it's not equal to something. And there is such operator which combines the exclamation mark and an equal sign. So now let's assign number of goals to variables, team 1, team 2, team 3, team 4. And then let's compare them using this not equal operator. And first of all, in first example, let's compare team 1 goals with team 2 goals. So we are comparing here is 2 is not equal to 3, and 2 is not equal to 3, obviously, and therefore the comparison returns true, as you can see over here, because it's not equal. Now, if we compare, is 3 not equal to 3? Well, it is equal, therefore this comparison is not true. So they are equal, and therefore our statement that 3 is not equal to 3 is false, and therefore it returns false. In the first example, our comparison 2 is not equal to 3 is true, and it returns true. In the second example, 3 is not equal to 3. Well, this statement is false, and it returns us false. Now we can also check and compare using is operator, which is checking whether the first variable, first value, is the same as the second. And on your screen, you can see all the comparison operators you may use. Now make sure to use double equal sign instead of one equal sign when comparing values or variables. It is a common mistake, and because one equal sign, it's an assignment, a value of a value to a variable, or of a variable to another variable, and double equal sign is a comparison operator. Make sure to pay attention, it's a common mistake. Now let's jump to conditional statements. Conditional statements allow us to check conditions, whether something is true or false, and change our program accordingly. Now let's have a look how we can do this. So let's assign team 1 and team 2 number of goals. So team 1 4, team 2 3. Then we are telling Python if team 1 goals is greater than team 2 goals. In our case, we are telling if 4 is greater than 3, then print it's a win. If it is true, we execute the code below. Now, if it's not true, we execute the block below the else, and print it's a defeat. Let's execute this. It's a win. Why it's a win? Because team 1 goals is a greater number of than team 2 goals, and therefore we print it's a win. Now there are few things to pay attention to how this structure works. So we write if something is true or not true condition. So if, and then we put the condition we want to check. Then, very important, don't forget to add the colon after this condition. Then what we do, we write on the next row or the next number of rows if the code is larger than one row, what we want to do: print something, add something, calculate something, whatever you want to do. And pay attention to indentation, because if your code under the if statement is not indented, then it will not work as it was meant by you. So if condition colon, then indentation, and do something, print, calculate, or whatever you want. Then if there is, you want to do something, if the condition is not met, you write else, and in this case there is no indentation, it is on the same level as if, so it's not under if, it's a separate else statement, but within that if else construction. Else, once again colon, and then you write on the next row or a number of rows what you want to do, and all this code is indented as well as a part of else. So this indented code will be executed only if this else condition is met, or if in the first case, if in case of if condition, if this if condition is met. Now, what about multiple options? For instance, we may want to check if a team 1 scored more goals than a team 2 and assign points accordingly, 3, 1 or 0 points. Let's assign team 1 and team 2 goals and assign team 1 and team 2 points. Now let's check the first condition. If team goals is greater than team 2 goals, which is in our case is not true, but let's check. What we want to do, we assign team 1 3 points. Then we go to elif or else if. It's another condition. If team 1 goals is less than team 2 goals, we want to assign team 2 3 points, which is logical because if team 2 scored more goals than team 1, it means it won, and it means it should be rewarded with 3 points. And now, if none of these conditions are satisfied, the number of goals is equal in our case. We execute the code below under the else. So we write once again else, and under the else we assign team 1 and team 2 1 point each. And let's execute this. Since team 1 and team 2 has the equal number of goals, it should give us 1 point each. And that is true. Now let's change. Let's, for example, assign 4 goals to team 2. Now it should assign team 2 3 points, and therefore it should print 0, 3. And it is. Now, excuse me, it's very important to notice that Python checks conditions one by one, not all of them together. And if the first condition is satisfied, it will not check others. So if team 1 goals is greater than team 2 goals, it will assign team 1 3 points, and that's it. It will exit this code. It will not execute this code because this condition is met. So this condition construct is the unite structure. And if the first condition is met, it's not executing the rest of the code. If it's not, it goes further and checks the second condition and further and further. Now let's examine this in more detail. So if 2 equals to 3, we want to print first statement is true. Other condition, let's check other condition. If 2 equals to 4, the second statement is true. And if none of these two conditions are met, we want to print the last statement is true. Let's execute this. And the last statement is true because none of these two previous conditions were met. Now let's check if 2 is less than 3. If it is true, we want to print first statement is true. Then we ask Python to check if 2 is greater than 4. If it is true, we want to print second statement is true. And if none of these two statements are true, we want to print the last statement is true. Let's execute this. And the first statement is true. Finally, let's check if 2 equals to 3, then we want to check else if or elif. 2 equals to 4. Finally, we want to check if 2 equals to is greater than 4. And let's execute this. And there is nothing to print. Why? Because Here, the first statement is not true. 2 doesn't equal to 3. So it's not printing first statement is true. Then 2 doesn't equal to 4. So it's not printing second statement is true. Finally, 2 is not greater than 4 and it's not printing last statement is true. Instead, if we change if to greater than 4 with else, it would print last statement is true. So this way, with this else, we may control what we want to do if none of this statement is true. We may ignore it or we may print something like here, for example. Now let's jump to multiple conditions. Sometimes we may need to check more than one condition. For instance, we may want to know if our team had a crushing win. So for this, we need to check if it was indeed a win and if we scored a lot. In order to do so, we may use logical operators like and or. So let's have an example. Let's assign team 1 and team 2 with goals 4 and 1. Now let's check if both conditions, if it's a win and if we scored a lot, are true. So if team 1 goals more or greater than team 2 goals, and then we add and operator, and we want to check if team 1 goals minus team 2 goals is greater than 2. So we want to know if team 1 scored with a difference of goals of more than 2. And let's check. So these two conditions should be met together because we're using AND operator. Now let's have another example. Let's assign team 1, team 2, team 3, and team 4 by 4 goals. Now let's check if team goals is greater than team 2 goals or team 3 goals is greater than team 4 goals. What do you think it will print? It will print nothing because none of these conditions are met. But for example, if we assign here 5, in this case, this condition is not met because team 1 and team 2 goals are equal. And this condition will be met now because team 3 goals, which is 5, is greater than team 4 goals. So let's print. At least one of our favorite teams has won. So in this case, one of these conditions is met, and therefore we are executing whatever code we added after the if, and make sure to indent this code. But if we change this or for and, it will print nothing because using and means that both conditions should be met. And in our case, if we use or, only one condition is enough to be satisfied to execute the code below, which is happening in your screen. Now let's jump to nested conditions. Imagine the match is not finished. Can we reward teams with points before the end of the match, like we did here when we were rewarding teams with points? Say we are not sure if match is finished or not, and we need to find the way to check. So for this, we can use the nested conditions. So let's assign team 1 and team 2 with zeros. Then let's assign match finished to false. Therefore, the match is not finished. Then first, we wanna check if match finished is true. And if it is true, pay attention that now there is indentation over here, so it's under the if. So this code will be executed only if this condition is true. And if it's not, we'll go to the end of this if else condition, which is else, and we would print matches is not finished if this condition is not satisfied. So let's execute this, and match is not finished. We cannot assign any points. But let's change. Let's suppose the match has just finished, and 1-1. Yeah. So 0-0. It means Python checks if match finished is true, and it is true. Then it will proceed with this nested condition. So nested condition is a condition that is executed only if the upper or superior condition is met. So it checks team 1 is greater than team 2 goals. No, it's not true. Go further. Team 1 is less than team 2 goals. No, not true. And else, if none of these two conditions are met, we would assign team 1 and team 2 1 point each. And that's it. That is exactly what was happening here. Now, there is very important topic of catching exceptions or handling errors, if you will. Remember our example with Lautaro Martinez goals and user input from last video? So let's go over once again. So first, let's ask user uh, the number of goals, then and the number of minutes the player played in the season. And we want to calculate the average goals scored by a player per 90 minutes. Then what we need to do is to convert the user input from the string, which is string by default. All the user import is string by default. And we want to convert these strings into the integers in order to perform calculations over here. And let's execute. Enter the number of goals. Suppose, let it be 90 and 12,000 minutes. And we see your player on average scored 0.67 goals per 90 minutes. But suppose our user made a mistake. Let's execute once again. So enter number of goals. Instead of number of goals, he entered you, for example, some string accidentally or on purpose, doesn't really matter. And then the number of minutes, let it be 12,000. And we see there is an error. Invalid literal for integer with base 10, you. Yeah, so it says that it cannot convert string to, to an integer. How could we avoid this? Well, we may avoid this error by wrapping our program inside try instruction and adding except in case there is an error. If there is no error, except block is ignored by Python. Handling an exception with the try and except statements is called catching an exception. So let's do this again. Let's ask user the number of goals. Then let's ask the number of minutes this player played in the season. And then we wrap our logic we want to execute under the try statement. So take a look. We write try colon, and then there is this indentation, and then we use except in case there is an error. We don't want our program to crash. We want to jump to this except block, and we want to execute something. Usually it is a print statement. Hey, you made a mistake. Hey, enter a number or something like that. So let's try this out. So first of all, let's try and enter all the numbers. It works as it is supposed to work. Now let's execute this once again. And once again, let's type U and here 12,000. Oh, Please enter numbers for goals scored and minutes played. So that's how we handle exceptions. And pay attention to indentations. It's a very common mistake. So that's all for today. Today we've covered conditional statements and comparisons, as well as handling errors. Now you have some understanding of how and when to implement them. To continue learning, don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel to never miss a single tutorial and update. You can show your support by buying me a coffee on buymeacoffee.com. The link is in the description to this video. Thank you for watching. Cheers!